Okay, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Philip Tai, and I'm delighted to welcome you to this highly anticipated webinar hosted by the Clean Investor. At the Clean Investor, we are dedicated to exploring and highlighting investment opportunities that contribute to fighting climate change and protecting our environment. Our mission is to uncover how the markets can drive solutions for environmental sustainability through smart and impactful investments. Today, we are honored to have Mitchell Scott, CEO of CULT Food Science, with us. CULT Food Science, trading under the symbol CSE CULT, OTC CULTF, and Frankfurt LN00. CULT is a disruptive food technology platform pioneering the commercialization of lab-grown meat and cellular agriculture. Their innovative approach is set to reshape the global food industry, particularly the pet food industry, creating sustainable, ethical, and nutritious food products. We will start this meeting with an introduction presentation from Mitchell about CULT. Then we'll move on to some questions, and lastly, we'll open up the floor to some Q&A. I will remind everyone to use the chat function on the side to send your post your questions. I'll try to answer these questions at the end of the Q&A period. So don't forget, we also have a lucky draw at the end of the webinar for 3 $50 Amazon gift cards. So stick around for the entire event for your chance to win. Hello, Mitchell. Glad to have you with us today.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Yeah, the company has had incredible gains in just the last few months. We saw that your price was around 3.5 cents in March, and today we're sitting at 36 cents.
Yeah, it's been a good ride, and I think a lot of that growth has just been from telling people the story, getting people excited, sharing updates, building the core business. And I think what struck me has just been the level of enthusiasm and excitement for the story. You know, it's much different from a lot of the other stories out there. You know, it's not another mining deal. We're building something really interesting, and I'm looking forward to sharing more with you.
Wonderful. So now we've got, our room full. The waiting room is empty. How about we start with a presentation from you?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me share my screen and give you guys a quick, 10-minute walkthrough. I think, Philip, you mentioned you have a bunch of other questions as well. So we'll keep the presentation brief and dive into Q&A after.
Great.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
I'm going to full screen it. Cool. You guys good? So yeah, Mitchell Scott, CEO of CULT Food Science. Really excited to share a very exciting investment opportunity with you guys in a unique and fast-growing industry. This is probably different from anything you've seen before. So I'm going to dive right into it. At CULT, we are building and investing in some of the first companies in this exciting new field called cellular agriculture. So that includes technologies like lab-grown meat, precision fermented dairy, enabling technologies, bioreactor design. But maybe to start off with, why are we looking to do this? Why are we replacing meat? What's the idea behind it all? And the answer is really simple. So global demand for meat is set to double over the next 20 to 30 years. Close to half of our land on Earth is used for animal agriculture. And, it's destroying the planet. There's huge greenhouse gas emissions. Everyone likes the idea of, a happy cow. But I blurred. There we go. Everyone likes the idea of a happy cow. But the reality is, 95% of meat in North America is factory farmed. Large scale animal agriculture operations aren't great for, the animals, aren't great for the environment, aren't great for our health. So we really need to figure out a way to solve this growing meat demand problem without just kind of making a bunch more factory farms, because we just don't have the space for it. So there's this new set of technologies that have really started being developed and coming to the forefront over the past 10 years. And those are called cellular agriculture. Part of that is lab grown or cultivated meat. And the idea behind all these technologies is quite simple. There's all these products that we love: meat, cheese, dairy, coffee, chocolate. And they're being produced in, large scale ways that aren't great. So scientists have figured out how to create these exact same products. So the products look the same, they taste the same, they're identical on a cellular level, but they're made initially in a lab and then in a food production facility. To overly simplify it, on the meat side, you have a giant bioreactor, a big metal tank similar to what they use to brew beer. You take a DNA sample, a chicken feather, a small biopsy, put it in the tank, feed it some nutrients. Then after a few weeks, you have that piece of meat that you want to eat without, a giant factory farm, without raising the animal, without all of that kind of overhead. So CULT has been investing in this space for the past 4 years. We've got an incredible portfolio of companies across various sub-industries within this space, but we're not the only ones investing in this space. So VC money, private money has been flowing into the space for the past 5+ years. Just over the past month, Bezos has announced 30 million, so 60 million total, 30 million into 2 separate projects in cultivated meat. You have the largest meat companies in the world building out these cultivated meat facilities as well, because I think they see the same thing. They're not going to be able to meet all this growing demand, so they need solutions, and they're investing. That being said, we are the only publicly traded company in Canada focused on this space. We're one of only 3 publicly traded companies in the world focused on this space. So while there's a ton of activity in the private sector, if you're wanting exposure to the space, as an everyday investor, we're one of the only ways to do that. And just to quickly clarify, this is very different from the plant-based segment. So we're not making an alternative that kind of looks and tastes the same, but it's made out of beans and veggies. We're creating the exact same products. So it looks the same, it tastes the same, it is the same. It's identical on a cellular level. It's just made in this new, different way. As I mentioned before, we've been investing in the space for a few years now. I'm going to go over our venture portfolio shortly. But I guess a few quick highlights. I mentioned the scarcity. I mentioned, it's a huge growing market. We're disrupting probably one of the largest markets in the world in terms of the food market, the meat market. While we were making these investments, we saw this really compelling opportunity in the pet food space. So we ended up acquiring a brand in the space, which I'm going to talk about shortly. We own 90% of this brand, and this really is a flagship asset for us. So this is, got a pack right here. This is New Cheese. And so in addition to this venture portfolio, which, we're all early stage investments where we have a passive stake, we are actively operating our New Cheese brand and building a company in the pet food space that's en route to generating meaningful revenue. For us, a couple different compelling reasons that we saw in the pet food space. First off, it's a massive market. It's growing quickly. I heard the stat the other day, about 6% of global GDP is spent on people's pets. About 7% is spent on people's babies. So people are spending more and more on their pets. They want the best products, the best nutrition, and they really are treating their pets like their children these days. And there's also some regulatory advantages. So if we want to take these new technologies that we're developing and bring them into human food, we're looking at a couple years. We're looking at a lot of money. The route for pet food is much quicker. In terms of regulatory, you can do it in 6 months, give or take. It's also more economical. So to create a fully structured steak or piece of sashimi, it's expensive and it takes time. Whereas with pet food, you can harvest the cells earlier. There's not as much structure, but you still get all the nutritional benefits, and then you're then putting it into a pet food. And dogs are, slightly less picky than humans. Cats are probably more picky than humans. But yeah, with that, I want to quickly introduce you guys to New Cheese. So these are the world's first high protein, factory farming free dog and cat treats. So this company was incubated out of the Silicon Valley, raised about $10 million in VC funding from some top VCs there. We acquired this asset roughly a year ago for $500,000. We acquired their consumer IP and a great lineup of products. There's some, it's a cultivated nutritional yeast that goes through this patent pending freeze drying process. So it's very similar to meat in terms of taste, in terms of texture, in terms of amino acid profile. It doesn't yet contain meat, but that is coming soon, and I'm going to talk to you about that shortly. Product is in the market in the US, 60% gross margins, so a lot of room to reinvest there. Recently launched in Canada as well, and navigating the approval process to actually put cultivated meat into these products. Just a quick look at kind of our strategy. So we launched online late last year, direct to consumer. We've got our own Shopify store. We're on third-party marketplaces like Amazon, Walmart, Kroger. Pawmates is essentially Tinder for dogs. So they've got 100,000 users. They're seeing ads for New Cheese in their feed. And then we're working with performance marketing agencies to basically scale that online business. And at the same time, working with a bunch of influencers to get content for those ads. So we're shipping out samples, we're getting user-generated content, we're running ads online, and really aggressively ramping sales. So this is a quick look at our sales forecast. At my last company, we grew sales from 1 million to 3 million to 10 million over 3 years. So this is on a bit of a longer time frame, and we're aggressively chasing the sales growth and really shifting from a company that was more passive, so had these great portfolio assets, but into one that has more of that venture studio or incubator model. So we're building and launching some of the first companies and brands in this exciting new space. Oh. So as I mentioned, launched the products late last year, and it's really that omni-channel approach. So be available where your customer is. So we're online. We're in about 50, 60 pet stores in California. People discover us online, then they end up purchasing in store and vice versa. Right now, 2 SKUs in the market, dog treats, cat treats, launching 6 more SKUs in the next month and a half on the supplements toppers side. And these are much more than just like treats. They're very functional. They've got great nutrition, great benefits, and they're targeting that kind of premium segment of the pet food industry, which is where a lot of the growth is happening. And that leads me to kind of phase 2 of Nutri's. So phase 1, relaunch these great products that have been developed, expand the sales, expand the distribution, start generating that meaningful 50 to 100K a month in revenue, getting that quarter over quarter triple-digit revenue growth. Phase 2 is something actually we just announced a big milestone on today, is taking actual cultivated meat and putting that into the Nutri's formulation. So this morning we announced that we are in the middle of these FDA feeding trials for cultivated meat. So we're submitting a bunch of this documentation to the FDA. After that, we'll be going through feeding trials. And then after that, we're going to be potentially the first company in North America with an FDA approval to sell lab-grown meat in pet food. This is a huge milestone, a huge catalyst for us, and we're excited to share more as we navigate this process, as we get that approval, and as we launch some of the first products in this space and show that this technology is real, it's here, it's being commercialized. Just to quickly jump and take a look at our venture portfolio. So the idea behind this was there's this exciting new field called cellular agriculture. It's going to reshape our food system. All the private money is pouring into this space. There's no real way for people to access it from a public capital markets perspective. So let's choose 18 of the most exciting companies in the space around the world. Let's make early seed stage, pre-seed stage investments. Often, we're first check-in, third check-in, looking to acquire between 2 and 8% of these companies. And then let's support them as they grow. Let's be their first customer. Let's leverage them as, let's be an ingredient purchaser from them. Let's support them with PR. And just take a quick look. So you may recognize Good Meat here, probably one of the largest companies in the space. They have approval to sell their cultivated chicken to humans in Singapore and in the US. But it's not just cultivated meat companies. So you may be aware of the whole cocoa futures market that's been going crazy over the past few months. Basically, cocoa production is severely threatened. About 85% of the world's cocoa supply is under threat from environmental damage, climate change, deforestation, labor issues. As a result, prices for these cocoa products and flavonols are going through the roof. So California Cultured here has figured out how to make the exact same product in a lab. It's a better quality product and it's cheaper. So they've got a partnership with the second largest chocolate producer in Japan and are already commercializing their products and scaling really quickly. So for us, that's incredibly exciting. Many companies are still early on in their commercialization journey, but some like California Cultured or like Meli Bio here on the honey side are really ramping up sales aggressively, are fundraising. Many have increased 3 or 4 times in value since we invested. And we're overall really happy with how the portfolio has been performing and more importantly, where it's headed in the future. Oh. Just a quick look at the company. So prior to this, I co-founded a company called The Very Good Butchers, The Very Good Food Co. Grew sales from 1 million to 3 million to 10 million, achieved a market cap of just under $1 billion. For me, really passionate about working towards a better, more just food system for all and building, fast-growing consumer product goods brands. Dr. Sarah Dodd is our vet nutritionist, one of 100 vet nutritionists in North America, really keen understanding of animal health, knows, developed all of our products, knows how to formulate, knows what dogs and cats need in terms of nutrition, in terms of taste. Mark Binns recently joined as our capital markets advisor. He's built a massively successful company in the past, great network, really well connected, and has great chops. Russell Starr joined as a strategic advisor. He's very involved with DeFi technologies, also has built businesses, scaled businesses. I think the thing that stands out for me about these two guys is they're animal lovers. So they've both got dogs, cats. They love the work that we're doing at CULT, and I think they really see the transformative potential of cellular agriculture as a whole. They saw similar trends in crypto and in other industries, and they really see this as the next big opportunity in the capital market space. Quick look at the chart. So obviously it's been on a bit of a tear the past couple months, and people keep asking me, what happened? A lot. So I joined the company in November. We needed to raise money. It took us a while to do so. We were able to close a small round a couple months back, and once we had that closed, we were off to the races. So we were able to build and execute on the core Nucci's business. And then really it was just about telling the story. So Mark put me in front of a bunch of people, sharing the story with people, getting them excited. And what really struck me was just the interest level, the enthusiasm. This is something different. There's something you're not seeing every day. And that's really what drove all that growth from 5 cents to 40 cents. There was no real paid marketing for the stock on that. And then about a week ago, we closed the first tranche of our current placement. So that placement is still open, 25 cents, full warrant at 35 cents. Tranche 1 has been closed, and tranche 2 will be closing in just over a week. So if you're interested in that, please feel free to reach out. But really the plan now is to continue to support the stock. We've got warrant coverage all the way up to $1. So if we're able to get those warrants exercised, that's another 7 million in cash into the company without having to raise again. Just a quick look, 70 million shares outstanding. A lot of work has been done over the past year to clean the stock up. So, sorry, it was rolled back 4-to-1. Great kind of shareholder group. Everyone's very aligned in terms of where this is going over the long term, not looking for a quick trade, really looking to build something meaningful and be, the leader in this space from a capital markets perspective. Just a quick look at a couple of catalysts. Number one, regulatory approvals. Obviously, we had some big news about that out this morning. And I think as we navigate that process, as we get that approval, as we start bringing the first cultivated meat pet food products to market in the US and Canada, that's going to be a major catalyst for the stock. Second piece is that Nucci sales growth. So once we're getting to that 50 to 100K a month, growing rapidly, triple digit quarter over quarter revenue growth, I think that's going to get people really excited as we prove out that we can go from, having this great portfolio, but to be actually building and launching companies and brands in this space. Last but not least, I think is from a larger macro perspective, how is the sector doing? As more companies grow, raise funding, bring products to market, and as more people become aware of kind of the power of this technology and start looking for opportunities to invest, we're one of 2 to 3 names that come up. So I think all 3 of those are going to be major catalysts for the stock moving forward. And yeah, I'd encourage you to take a look at the space to learn a little bit more. And I think with that, I'm going to wrap up the presentation and maybe dive into some questions, Philip.
Yeah, thank you very much for this informative presentation here. We have a couple of questions that were sourced earlier, but I noticed that your press release this morning got a lot of attention. One of the commentators we saw said, the first mover advantage in regulatory arbitrage, clever. While everyone else is chasing human food approvals, these guys might just sneak in the back door with pets. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I think for us, we saw a clear opportunity in pet now. So we think just looking at the economics of it, looking at the regulatory timelines, looking at all these different pieces, we think the opportunity there for pet is right now. I think the market's open to it. We've figured out how to do it at cost, at a good cost. So we're not spending a ton of CapEx on building our own facilities. We're not developing a ton of this IP ourselves. Instead, we have this, large handful of early seed stage investments, and we're leveraging those relationships to bring some of the first products to market. So yeah, I think it's going to hit pets first. I think it's, starting now, will continue to. Obviously, very interested in human food as well, but I think that's a bit more of a longer term play.
Right. I noticed also that a lot of the lab-grown cultivated meats and food product companies seem like R&D companies. They're R&D, and they don't have on their management team commercialization people. And I see that's why there is some interest with interesting fact with your company is that you have the commercialization arm in the pet food business already established, and you may be a good channel for these R&D companies to get their product to market.
100%. So there's definitely a lot of companies out there. A lot of them are still in kind of the science experiment stage. You know, they were able to raise some decent funding 2-3 years ago. And yeah, I mean, I think that commercialization piece is a huge piece of it. And what we're doing right now is we're taking new cheese, the current formulation, which doesn't have cultivated meat, but we're building out that distribution and sales network so that when we have lab-grown meat in the product, we can get it out there, you know, quickly, efficiently, and start selling it from day one. Whereas I think a lot of other companies are then going to have to figure out, okay, they've commercialized, they've scaled up, how do they start actually building out that distribution and sales? So we'd love to be that partner. A lot of companies in the space are also looking at that B2B model. So they just want to sell an ingredient to companies that know how to commercialize.
Great. Now, changing tack for a bit, let's move away from just the company and what it's doing for the stock market and what for its investors. But let's understand, you know, what our impact is for your technology on reducing global climate change. So what specific areas is CULT Food Science working on to reduce the carbon footprint of the pet food industry?
Yeah, and I think that you kind of have to zoom out a bit. So you look at meat. You know, conventional meat production is, you know, one of the largest creators of greenhouse gas emissions in the world, and is, you know, incredibly damaging to the environment. And then you look at the pet food industry, and about 30% of our meat supply ends up in pet food. And, you know, it's not the nice juicy steaks and good bits. It's kind of everything that's left over gets ground up and shoved into pet food, and it's a low quality protein. And we really feel that by eliminating, you know, by finding a different source for that meat and for that protein, we can really reshape our food system and make products that have a significantly less impact on the environment, but still deliver the same taste, texture, nutritional benefits. Still has all the good pieces of it, but without some of those damaging environmental aspects.
I see. Now, can you share any recent innovations or technologies in your venture portfolio, besides the ones you've already mentioned, that could significantly contribute to climate change mitigation?
Yeah, I mean, I touched on the California cultured one on cocoa production. I think that's huge. And I think with chocolate, it's a little bit less hot button of a topic. I think in many cases, people will be consuming a cell-based chocolate and won't necessarily know or care.
Right.
We've got another company called Bio. So they're working on bee-free honey. Obviously, there's a huge problem in honey with, you know, large-scale honeybee operations going out and fighting all the local native honeybees, and just terrible for biodiversity, some significant impacts there. But I think the overall theme is all of our portfolio companies are working on solutions that are ultimately going to massively affect the amount of, you know, carbon emitted, all these environmental aspects.
Right. So you've made partnerships with the lab grown chicken company you mentioned, and Bio. Are there any other collaborations that you have or partnerships that would benefit the climate change issue?
I think the biggest thing is just with working with our portfolio companies to amplify the work that they're doing, and support their efforts in mitigating climate change, and also everything else they're doing. I mean, there's a company out of Quebec making essentially lab grown milk. So if they're able to scale up that technology, all of a sudden, you know, the dairy industry, we're not as reliant on that, and that's a huge methane gas emitter, right? All those cows eating grass, pumping out milk, you know, forced pregnancies, not having a great time. So I think it's just the entire portfolio is working on solutions. We're doing whatever we can to support them, be a customer for their ingredients, support them on the PR side, and really amplify the work they're doing.
Yeah, I think that's quite important for us to understand, is that when you have lab grown any of these food products, what you're getting is not only the mitigation of greenhouse gases in the specific animal that you're getting it from, but the entire supply chain, getting the feed grown in the field, getting the feed harvested and then brought to the cow, for example. That's also extremely high. in carbon emissions. So let's move on a little bit to shareholder value creation. You did successfully grow the stock price significantly from 3.5 cents all the way to what, 36 cents a day?
Yeah.
Very short time, quite impressive. Tell us how you will help to synergize the portfolio aspect of your business with the close to revenue pet food part of the business. What's the connection?
Yeah, good question. So I think as we were developing this portfolio and building it out, we saw a lot of companies that have great technology, they're working on solutions, but not a lot of actually end products being commercialized and brought to market. So we saw an opportunity initially in pet to start commercializing their technology. So with Nucci's, we're looking at our portfolio companies and seeing, hey, can we be your first customer? Can we buy your ingredients? Can we use this technology here? Can we really help them grow their business, but at the same time be producing a revenue positive, cash flow positive asset for the other part of our business? So I think there's a huge synergy there, and I think they play really nicely together.
Mm-hmm. So in the next 6 months, paint for us a picture of what shareholders can expect for value growth.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, as I mentioned before, the past 3 or 4 months, all that growth has been organic. I mean, yes, we've been out there telling the story, pitching to anyone that wants to listen and getting people really excited. But we really haven't invested in marketing. Now that we've closed some funds, we're aggressively investing in marketing on the Nucci side. So growing sales as quickly as possible. I think highlights there are going to be navigating this FDA approval process. There'll be some large retailer announcements. There'll be some really exciting news on the brand company building front. In terms of the stock, we're doing a lot to promote the stock, to get it out to a wider audience, just because the industry itself is so new. We feel like there's this level of education we need to be doing. Which is why we're on this webinar, for example. I had another webinar this morning. We've got some people over in Europe that are sharing the story there. And it's really about, telling the story and showing that, we are the only publicly traded company in Canada focused on this space. There's not a lot of ways to invest in this space. All the big VCs, the billionaires are pouring money into the space. And I think there's a really compelling opportunity here to be a part of it and to really reshape our food system.
Mm-hmm. I also noticed that you mentioned that your manufacturing processes are lean, very lean. I wanted you to go over the e-commerce functions and how you actually sell and manufacture these products, and tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, for us, everything was designed to be very lean in terms of supply chain and manufacturing. So we're not building expensive manufacturing facilities. We're not spending a ton on additional R&D. So with the core Nucci's line, it was developed out of California. Years were spent into developing this product. Some really interesting technology behind them. A patent pending freeze drying process. So we've got two different co-manufacturing partners. One of them makes this specialized strain of nutritional yeast, adds the fermentation product, and then we have another co-packer that receives this and makes it into finished goods. So they'll do everything from taking the ingredients and then putting it through the process, freeze drying it, blending it, etc., and then packaging it. So you get one of those. From there, it goes to one of two places. So a third-party logistics facility. So they'll handle all our e-commerce orders. They'll handle our Amazon orders. Someone orders online, they get shipped their order within a couple of days. Or it goes to one of our distributors, which we're in the process of getting set up. And the distributors will then send it out to the various pet food stores that are ordering. So for us, it's all about, let's keep things lean while we build out the business and start generating meaningful revenue. So we don't have our own facility. We don't have a big warehouse. My garage has got a bunch of boxes of Nucci's in it, but other than that, everything is kind of distributed and set up so that we can quickly scale and grow without a ton of overhead.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of which, with a low cost commercialization strategy that you have, combine that with the capital that you've been able to raise. I mean, will you be able to meet next year's growth targets and next year's R&D targets with this, with your burn rate?
We will, yeah, 100%. I mean, I think we're going to want to try and grow even more aggressively. The nice thing is with 60% gross margins on Nucci's, that leaves a lot of room to reinvest in growth, to scale advertising, to do a lot. And that's one thing that really excited me when I first came in, was just that margin profile. So yeah, we have enough funds to execute on our business plan and our roadmap. We're expecting more funds to come in through warrants being exercised all the way up to $1, and are really excited to grow and scale the business.
Right. Now, you are a Canadian Securities Exchange listed company. The CSE has not gotten a lot of attention, or the venture market in Canada have not gotten a lot of attention recently. So your marketing is going to be extremely important, your investor marketing rather. So what are your key components for your investor relations, investor outreach strategy next year?
Yeah, I think there's a few different components. A lot of it is, I try and have it be more educational than promotional, and I feel like that with something new and different, exciting, that really works. So we're working on a bunch of stuff that just educates people about the industry, gets people excited. So that's webinars, that's videos, that will then promote to various audiences. I'm active on the different stock boards like CEO.ca, engaging with investors, answering questions, putting out updates. For us, it's really about let's do what we can to tell the story, and then meaningfully engage and build connections with our community, with potential investors, with people interested in the space. And that's the core of the strategy. Where I'm also going to conferences, presenting to institutions. I was in New York for 3 days, 2 weeks ago. And I've met with probably 40, 50 plus brokers across Canada. So it's going to be continuing to tell those stories and take those meetings. But it's just, yeah, a lot of talk.
Yeah, outreach is all about building that trust and credibility with investors. So I guess you're going to be in lots of calls like these moving forward. Speaking of which, we've got a lot of press releases came out in the last week. These things usually come out in batches. I know. So what is the expectation or milestones for the next batch of news?
Yeah. So I mean, with 18 or 19 different portfolio companies, there's almost always something exciting that we could or should be sharing. They're made, like earlier this week we were talking about Melly Bio, so the honey company. They're expanding like crazy. They're getting into grocery stores across North America. They've got a partnership, I don't think I can say the name, but with a very large tech company in their cafeterias with 50,000 plus people per day. So it's sometimes hard to choose what to highlight, what to share, and to kind of have that balance of not wanting to put out too much, but just with the progress being made, there's a lot to talk about, especially as we start navigating this FDA approval process, and especially as we're in build, growth, scale mode with our 90% owned Nucci's brand.
Mm-hmm. I did end up getting a question sent to me earlier by another investor. They're asking, what are the barriers with regards to starting trials with the Marina cat food?
So with putting cultivated meat into the Nucci's formulation, there's a couple barriers. So there's a trial design, which we've pretty much done. There's getting feedback, and then it's entering the feeding trials. And to do that, we need to have a secured supply. So from our partners. So we don't have full control over that. Many of these companies are still early stage, so they're in the process of scaling up and building out that capacity. So right now, the problem really is on that supply side, and it's something we're working to address and have kind of backup supplies available. That's really, I think, what the bottleneck is likely to be for the industry as a whole for the next 5 years. It's not for lack of demand, it's for lack of supply and capacity.
Excellent. So open the floor to any investor questions. If anyone wants to type in a question or raise their hand, we'll get you on the ask a question directly with Mitchell. So I'll give it about 5 minutes to see if there's any questions here. I know I've already asked quite a few questions to you, so perhaps we've covered a lot of it. So we'll just let people, go ahead.
Keep them coming.
Yeah, keep them coming. So I saw a nice analysis while we're waiting for the question here. They're saying, okay, a couple of things that will show your success moving forward. First of all, portfolio companies continuing to announce their successes in terms of sales or R&D efforts. Secondly, with regards to your Nucci's brand, your sales and marketing for that one will be a great boon to the stock price. And lastly, they mentioned something about IP with regards to Nucci's. Can you paint any updates on this?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple components to the IP. So one is this specialized strain of nutritional yeast. They spent a lot of time and years developing it. It's got an active fermentation, product added to it. And then we've got 2 patents pending. So that's on the freeze drying of nutritional yeast for pet food and pet treats. So there's definitely some protection there. Nutritional yeast is a huge ingredient in pet food. But we've got, like a V2, V3, a much better product there. So I think there's an opportunity to license that to other pet food companies. We're talking to companies in Asia and Europe about using the New Cheese platform, the New Cheese ingredient, in their own pet foods. And that could be a completely new stream of revenue for us.
Mm-hmm. The Asian market is quite large, and pet food is very important there. There's a growing middle class who love who's beginning to love the idea of owning pets.
Yeah, if anyone on the call has connections there, please hit me up. Would love to chat further.
Sure. Now we got a question from Philip W. I think the concept of lab-grown meat is still new in the market. So he's asking, what is the protein source in lab-grown meat?
Yeah, so it really depends on the product, on what type of lab-grown meat, but the protein source is the exact same as conventionally produced meat, right? You're taking this initial DNA, this chicken feather, this biopsy, you're feeding it these nutrients, and you're getting the same protein. So the protein source is the same. It's chicken, it's beef, it's lamb, it's pork. It's just created in a different way.
I see. Hope that answers your question, Philip. Now, I had one final question on my end. This is relating to the long-term growth of the company. I noted that you are the only public company that is involved in lab-grown meat listed in Canada from here. As news picks up about this new sector across Canada, do you expect there to be some tipping point when you start seeing the institutions like the pension funds and everything start to clamber for some exposure in this sector?
I think 100%. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I think, right now, we're the only publicly traded company in Canada. We're probably a little bit too small right now for the pension funds to get on board, but I can see a point in the future where, we're the market leader for this space in Canada or maybe the world, and we're attracting that type of investor interest, institutional interest, and we're really building something for the long-term, future of our food system, and having a lot of conversations with various institutions, various groups, and there's a keen level of excitement and interest in the space, and I think a lot of people keeping a very close eye on this space.
Sure. We have another investor here, Anesh Reddy. When can investors be expecting returns directly dependent on your main product? Anesh, this is again a earlier stage venture company, so most of the growth will come from stock market growth, not in terms of dividends or if that's what you mean by returns. So I think that we have quite a few questions already asked today. Mitchell, thank you very much for spending your time with all of us to educate us about what CULT Food Science is doing and how you're benefiting both the environment and your shareholders' portfolios.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on the call. Just as a quick reminder, we do have a financing open currently, 25 cents a share, full warrant at 35, stocks trading between 35 and 40 cents, so that warrant's already in the money. Closes July 25th. Please feel free to reach out if you're interested, but also love for you to pick up some shares in the market. Stock's been trading really nicely over the past few months, trading close to 1 million shares a day. There's a lot of interest, excitement, enthusiasm in the space. A lot of big catalysts for us coming up. So yeah, thanks so much. Please learn more about the space. And I think it's really going to change the world, change our food system. So it's super exciting, and we're happy to be at the forefront of it. So thank you so much for having me.
Great. And to everybody in this room, if you're interested in reaching out, there's always the email here, hello@cultfoodscience.com, or you can email me directly. I've been sending you emails too with any further questions for CULT Food Science. Now, Mitchell, I think you may be coming back next month for an update, but we'll keep everyone updated when that happens and when we have a date for that. And lastly, we have our lucky draw for this time. My team member here has given me a few names of people. Just 1 second as I pull this up. We have Alex. We also have Ms. Rish and also Anish Reddy, who asked that question. But thank you very much. We'll be sending you emails after this this webinar is over to confirm that your gift. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.